Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today is a full review of Pink Iris by Abel. This is an all-natural brand, 100% natural. I purchased myself the sample set quite a while ago, and I really like Abel. I think they do really well-blended fragrances that are really affordable. Really cool brand, I like them a lot. I own a few from Abel. I picked up one of each here. I've got a 50ml of white vetiver, so you can see what the presentation looks like, and they do little 15 miniature travel bottles, which I think is really cool. This new one is Golden Neroli. They did a scratch and dints 50% off sale a few weeks ago, so I picked this one up at half price. I couldn't resist picking up a bargain. So yeah, so that's the presentation. They also have magnetic caps, so cool, very kind of minimalist design. I would say kind of contemporary minimalist is a good way to describe the brand in general, a little bit, at least in my opinion, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's quite cool. This one is a brand new release that actually was released today, but the owner actually sent me a little message and said could she send me a little 2ml sample of this before the release to see what I think. So it wasn't particularly sent to review, just to, you know, hear my feedback on it. But I really like this. If this was in the original sample set, it would have been one of my favourite ones along with Golden Neroli. And it does share similar characteristics to the dry down of Golden Neroli, because this also uses, I think, the same natural musk isolate with a little bit of vanilla that you smell in the far dry down of Golden Neroli. But in this one it's used to a higher level. You smell more of it and it lasts a really long time. They actually sent me a couple of little postcards. I'm presuming this is more like a mood board for the idea of the fragrance, so to speak. So you can see kind of the image inspirations for this particular fragrance. And I've got the little official card with the note list. So on the top it's Szechuan pepper, grapefruit and basil. In the hearts we've got orris root, rose and jasmine, with vanilla and musk in the base. When I first spray this one, I really like this. It's slightly feminine in the opening, but I still like it. You get it's slightly a violet nuance. It reminds me of candied violet just a little bit, with just a hint of a juiciness. The grapefruit adds a little bit of a juiciness without being too citrusy or too sharp. It's kind of a slightly juicy opening with this sweetened kind of violet-like tonality. This white Szechuan pepper, you don't smell it directly, but it adds kind of a shimmering kind of feeling to the fragrance in the opening, which is quite bright and kind of shiny, is maybe a good description. But it's really nice. I really like the opening a lot. The opening is one of the best from Abel. I think it's quite a captivating opening. It's really, really likable. I can't imagine too many people not liking this. Like, it just smells really appealing. It's very nice. As it dries down, this candied violet softens a little bit. It's not too intense candied violet, it's like a subtle candied violet. But as it softens, you get a little bit more of the floral nuances coming through. There is rose and jasmine in here, but they're more like nuances, and it seems to, I don't know whether it's the effect of the jasmine maybe, but it's a very, very clean floral. There's no indolic nature to this fragrance at all, but it adds a slight creaminess to the fragrance. So it's like a thick, smooth, creamy, slightly floral, slightly violet-y concoction that smells really good and a little bit hard to describe. But it gets a little bit more creamy, I think is the best way to describe it, as it starts to dry down with those floral nuances. The orris in here doesn't come across too powdery in my opinion. It doesn't come across like massively cosmetic. It's not going to remind you of lipstick, at least to me it doesn't. But it does go from initially smelling like candied violet into more of something more familiar as orris. without being too, like I say, too powdery or too cosmetic. Mixing it a little bit with those other florals as more kind of nuanced notes. The musk is kind of ever present during this period and becomes more noticeable in the dry down. The musk is a natural isolate musk, which I believe from memory that they extract from ambrette, but it's lovely. It's a gorgeous soft textured musk that's just very comforting and very mellow and warming and really, really nice. I really like it. Paired with a little bit of vanilla, not too much. It just smells beautiful, and it reminds me as it dries down that natural isolate and vanilla combo with a little bit of that orris is what pushes the fragrance into the far dry down and lasts a really long time and smells great, and will remind you a little bit of the dry down of Golden Neroli, but a little bit more intensified because it seems to be more of it in this fragrance. But really, really good. Very, very smooth. In my opinion, unisex. I don't see that, although the name would put some men off being called Pink Iris, I think it's completely unisex. I'm definitely going to buy a bottle of this for myself when I have available funds. I'm saving my money this year, but when I can afford to buy fragrances again, I'm definitely going to buy a bottle of that one. I do really like it. In the mid, slightly reminds me of, like I said, it's got a creamy kind of nature. It does remind me a little bit of a hand lotion, but in a nice way. I'm not often attracted to scents that kind of have that vibe, but this one I think just smells really good. I think also maybe an interesting analogy that comes to mind, maybe creamy is not quite the right word. I struggle to describe the midsection. It kind of also reminds me a little bit of a big fluffy marshmallow. It reminds me of the texture of a marshmallow and a little bit of the smell of a marshmallow as well, but in a really cool way. It smells nice. It's kind of soft and squishy, and that kind of really soft, not powdered, but soft textured sweetness that comes off a marshmallow illusion of soft, comforting kind of texture and sweetness. It's nice anyway. In terms of performance, this one surprised me, really surprised me actually. I would say I thought the projection and sillage was quite close to the skin, but I took the dog for a walk around 2 hours after applying it, and I could smell it softly, not too much, but softly got wafts of it around me walking the dog. And then afterwards I went and visited my sister's house. She was having a get together with some friends, and she wanted a hand cleaning up the place. And so I went round, and she was in the garden at the time, and I went straight out into the garden immediately, and she's a couple of meters away from me. She said, "Oh, you smell nice." And she's like, "Let's have a smell." And she came up and had a proper sniff of it. And it's not very often that I get reactions of like a genuine compliment of, "Oh, you smell nice." And that was about 3 hours after applying it. It does feel like it leaves a really nice sillage in the air, especially if you're outside. So my sister really liked this one. Interestingly, her comment when she smelled it close was, "Oh, does it have black currant in it?" So that was her impression, that it smelled a little bit kind of fruity in a berry kind of way. I don't quite get that myself, but there is a slight subtle sweetness, which to me is coming more from the violet-like tonality mixing with the kind of the musk and the vanilla. But it's a really nice blend. In terms of longevity, a solid 8 to 9 hours on my skin, but I can smell it over 12 hours. Why I say 8 to 9 is that's what I like to coin usable longevity. But it lasts 12 hours plus as a skin scent. So this is easily the best performing from Abel in terms of longevity. And I think projection and sillage as well. Like I say, it wafts around and people smell it around you within the first 3 hours, which is great. For an all-natural fragrance, they can be subtle. This one does a really good job. In terms of when to wear it, I would say this is a really good all-rounder. I think it's safe to wear to work. It's definitely more of a daytime fragrance, and I think you could pull it off in most seasons, as in spring, autumn. It might be a little bit light in winter, but you could still wear it in winter, and if you applied it lightly, I think it would work in summer. So fairly versatile. It does smell, I think you could actually pull it off dressed up smart as a man or a woman, or casual. It's pretty versatile, I think. I think some men, however, will feel that it leans on the feminine because of the some people have a funny thing about the violet kind of notes, and the floral kind of muskiness of it a little bit might put people off. But this is no more feminine than some of the Maison Francis Kurkdjian range aimed towards men that have these kind of clean, creamy kind of tonalities to them. This is in the same range easy as those fragrances. The lotion, the hand lotion thing that I mentioned in the mid, fades away and disappears. That's kind of a midsection feeling. As it dries down, it goes into more this natural isolate, the musk, the soft musk with a vanillic nuance. Like I say, that reminds me of Golden Neroli, a little bit more intensified. That's it. This is a really nice one. I like it. I would put this up there with, like I say, Golden Neroli as being, you know, two of my favorites from this brand that I would really like to smell on a woman, but I think are still unisex, and that I would personally be comfortable wearing them myself. I own a bottle of Golden Neroli, and I will be purchasing this one as well in the future when I can afford to part with some money again. Hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you again next time.